This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome to Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam. First time that you've been on that I've been able to say, welcome, Lieutenant Governor Northam.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I just saw your map. I'm glad to see the Eastern Shore is represented on the map of Virginia. So,
yes.
So we're getting off to a good start.
we certainly are. We certainly are. Well, there's any number of things that we'd like for you to tell our viewers about what you're doing, and I will tell them and tell you that when I went on your Lieutenant Governor's website, and I thought about this part-time job that you have, and I counted 13 different commissions that you're member of, some that you're almost in charge of and chairing, and I was saying, what happened to this part-time job that a physician could be a physician and still have a part-time lieutenant governor's job?
Well, you're right, David, and I'll tell you, it's been a great experience, but it's a busy job, and a lot of people don't realize lieutenant governor is on paper, part-time. Or my salary is $36,000 a year. So most people, including myself, need to keep their regular job, if you will. And so I'm a pediatric neurologist at the Children's Hospital in Norfolk, and I see patients about 3.5 to 4 days a week. And as you said, I am on a lot of commissions. I chair several of them. I'm vice chair of another, and I'll tell you all about those. But a lot of good work's being done. The lieutenant governor's primary responsibility is to preside over the Senate, and that's during January and February. And of course, we've had one session. We're actually getting ready to go into another session in January of 2015. But then after session's over with, the governor, Governor McCullough, who has got a tremendous amount of energy and I think is doing a great job, he's put me in charge of several commissions. And so we're working on early childhood development. We're working on the mental health task force. I chair that. And then a lot of good work is going on at Fort Monroe in Hampton as the Commonwealth of Virginia takes over that from the Army. So they keep me busy, and every now and then I get to say hi to my wife and my children, but it's a balancing act, but it's a good balancing act.
Well, I would think as a physician, you've learned over the years how to balance doing a great deal, because I think there's not a physician anywhere who's not busy, and so to be able to balance that, you had some practice before you got involved in political matters.
I did, and even then, before being in the private sector of medicine, I was in the Army as an Army physician, and so we learned to do, as they say, more with less in the Army. So I've had, I guess, good training or good practice for where I am today.
Well, we appreciate your being on This Week in Richmond. So start with any one of those commissions and tell our viewers about what's happening in that arena.
Yeah, well, I'll start with mental health. And, I think most of us, and especially as a pediatric neurologist, we don't have to look far, whether it's within our family or our neighbor or a friend, to find someone who's affected with mental illness. And, we had the tragedy at Virginia Tech back in 2007, and I think people started paying attention to the challenges that we have in Virginia. And then, in 2013, we had the unfortunate tragedy of our good friend Senator Deeds, what he went through with his son, the loss of his son who suffered from mental illness. So at that time, Governor McDonnell formed the Mental Health Task Force, and then Governor McAuliffe continued it as he started his administration in 2014. And so we've been able to get some good things accomplished. But, starting with crisis intervention, that was one of the issues with Senator Deed's family, that, they knew that this individual needed help, but there was not a hospital available or a bed available in Virginia. So we've fixed that with a registry, so we know where the beds are that are available in the Commonwealth. We're reaching out to ongoing treatment, to making sure that people in Virginia with mental illness have access to a provider. That's very important, so that there's a psychologist or a social worker or a psychiatrist that can help them. Another area that needs a lot of work is with our law enforcement. There are far too many mentally ill individuals who are in our prisons and penitentiaries, so we're working on that. And then finally, under the Mental Health Task Force, which I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm the chair of that, Governor McAuliffe named me the chair. The last area is technology. And one of the challenges that we have had, David, in the underserved areas of Virginia, if you will, out in the rural areas, is those folks that have mental illness don't have access to a provider. So we're using technology, and we call it telehealth or telepsychiatry, where a psychiatrist, for example, at UVA in Charlottesville, is on the internet communicating with one of our community service boards. One example would be out in Danville, Virginia. And so a patient will go into the community service board in Danville and be connected with the psychiatrist. They'll receive their counseling. If there's a prescription involved, medicine that they need to take, there's a pharmacy right there on the spot. So it's really one-stop shopping. So we've been able to make a lot of improvements in access to mental health care, but obviously the commission is going to continue, and some other things that we want to work on. One of the recommendations this year will be to have kind of an information center across the Commonwealth in different regions, so that if a family is in need of mental illness care, or a provider, that there's somewhere to call and say what's available. And so that's going to be very helpful, because a lot of people that are in need, they don't know where to turn. And
right.
I can just tell you that as a provider myself. And so I think some good things are happening in that regard.
We had some conversation during a break down at the Governor's Summit on accelerating health care for veterans.
Right.
And one of the topics there was the need for psychiatric and that mental health services, and using telemedicine. And the interesting thing that may come out of that, as you were helping to lead that, is that the ability of even veteran services and private providers to work together.
Absolutely. Well, and as you know, David, and having served in the Army as I did for 11 years, the injuries that are being sustained in our current wars are much different. So we have soldiers that are returning with traumatic brain injuries from all the explosive devices that they're around, and also post-traumatic stress disorder is certainly a mental health issue that we are concerned about with our veterans. So a lot of work is going on there. And as you mentioned, veterans, one of the areas that our governor is very involved and intent on fixing is homelessness. And you wouldn't think of it, but a number of our veterans who have served this country well, have protected our freedom, are coming home and have nowhere to live. And so that's another thing that they're working on presently, to make sure that these families have access to health care, and also that they have a warm place to be in at night.
So if we go to from mental health services to early childhood, because you're again chairing another big task force there.
Well, the governor and myself and his administration, his cabinet, our main focus in Virginia is economic development. And we know that if we can not only retain good businesses and jobs, but also recruit new businesses and jobs to Virginia, that's what moves Virginia forward. And so if you ask a company, what would it take for Virginia to attract you to come to our state for a place of business, at the top of the list is workforce development, i.e., they want to know that there's a world-class education system here that can train their workers. So So we're very involved, and if you start at the top, we have great colleges and universities. We have an excellent community college system here in Virginia, 23 community colleges. We're trying to make some improvements in K through 12, especially with technical training at the high school level for those that don't choose to go to college. But the area that we're really focused on, and this starts with the governor, something that we ran on in 2013, is early childhood development. And that is making sure that we're reaching out to our children even before they get to kindergarten with pre-K education, making sure that they have good nutrition, making sure that their health care needs are taken care of. So the governor formed the Children's Cabinet, which is the cabinet members. I'm on that. And then we also have the Commonwealth Council for Childhood Success, which I chair. And so we're looking at all the issues that I just talked about with early childhood development. And the focus is going to be on the family unit. In other words, we're not just reaching out to a 3-year-old, we're reaching out to the 3-year-old's family, getting the parents involved, making sure they understand the importance of education, good nutrition, good health care. So we have a council or a commission of about 30 very diverse individuals across the Commonwealth. I chair that commission, and so we had our first meeting a couple weeks ago, and we're very excited, enthusiastic, and there's a lot of interest from the business community as well. They realize that in order for Virginia to be competitive with other states and other countries, we need to have a world-class education system. So we're focused on that, and I think we're going to be able to get some good things done.
You know, when people ask me, and we have discussions about what's going to be some of the big issues coming up, I've often said I'm not sure what will happen in 2015, but I know that emphasis on early childhood is there. Just a few weeks ago, people sat in the chair where you are and from the Chamber of Commerce and from Dominion Power,
right,
and talked about the same thing, about the need for pre-K and for starting very young. And so,
well, just a quick statistic, David, and I'm a pediatric neurologist, and Pam and I have raised 2 children, but there's a tremendous potential, learning potential for children before they ever get to kindergarten. And so if you look statistically, if children aren't reading by the time they're in the 3rd grade, there's a very good chance that they're going to end up in our penitentiary system. So it's one of those things, as we say in medicine, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You can either pay for it now or you can pay for it later. So our focus is going to get to these children when they're young, when they're impressionable, and when we can include their family before they get to be teenagers. And having raised 2 children, I can tell you once they get into their teen years, they're not as impressionable as they are when they're younger.
Right. Well, now you know this from your field of medicine. Our viewers may not all know it, but I saw a report from a study out at Virginia Tech, and it was giving strong evidence that at birth on up to about 6 months, you could not tell the difference in a child based on the parent's income, based on the parent's education, anything. But soon, by age 1, 2, and 3, you could start to see if someone didn't have the stimulation, didn't have something happening in their home.
Absolutely.
And then pre-K, then you could start seeing the separation that would occur.
You really can, Dave. We just had a meeting that I spoke at over the lunch hour today, and we talked about families that live in poverty, and believe it or not, 85% of these households don't even have age-appropriate books. And when we think of how we raise our children and how impressionable they are, that we try to read to them every day and every night before they go to bed. If you think about it, some of these homes that in Virginia, they don't have that kind of access. And so what we're trying to do for Virginia is just give everybody an opportunity. That's what it's all about, and that starts at a young age. And hopefully if we can help them at that age, then they can have the same opportunities that I've had and can be successful in life.
You also mentioned Fort Monroe.
Yes, sir.
And there are exciting things that are happening there. Tell our viewers about this.
Yes, we're very excited. Of course, Fort Monroe is right in my backyard, and being an Army veteran, I have really wrapped my arms around what we're doing there. And as part of BRAC, from the base closures several years ago, Fort Monroe was given to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Not all of it. but a significant amount of it. And we also have a significant amount that is owned by the federal government, and it's going to be a national monument. So there's a tremendous amount of history, especially slavery history, at Fort Monroe. And so we're in the process of just kind of tying up a lot of loose ends and turning that into I think, again, a world-class national monument. Virginia will own some of it. The feds will own some of it. But it's going to be a great place for people to come to learn about the history of Virginia, to learn about slave history, and it's going to be a real shot in the arm economically to our tourism industry. So we're very excited about what's happening.
Well, that's something really to keep our eyes on.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be right, changing. You know, I noticed that the legislature has a study on recurring flooding. And then as I looked on your list of 13 commissions, that you're on one that has to do with climate change.
Absolutely.
Is there some work going on that commission?
Yes, sir, I'm on that commission. And actually, then Governor Kane had the Climate Change Commission, and with some really good recommendations, a lot of which were just kind of put on a shelf and never addressed. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we're certainly pulling out those recommendations and then moving forward with some new ones. But as you just mentioned, sea level rise is a very, very important issue for the Commonwealth of Virginia, especially for Hampton Roads. And you know, whether you believe in global warming or not, due to subsidence of some of the land, yes, and also rising of the sea level, we're looking at probably a foot or two in the next 50 years of sea level rise. And so when you take a map and look at what, for example, a foot of sea level rise would do in Hampton Roads, we need to start doing our planning right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a native of the Eastern Shore, you also know about rural Virginia, and I see that you're on the Center for Rural Virginia. What's happening in that area?
Well, I am, and you know, having grown up over in Onancock, certainly, you know, agriculture is an important part of our economy on the Eastern Shore, but also across the Commonwealth. Looking at the Southwest, the South Side, down in Dansville, Martinsville, these areas were hit very hard with the recession. So, you know, we're looking at ways of expanding their economy, bringing, again, new businesses, new jobs. And, you know, one of the things, and this is a bipartisan effort, and it's had involvement at the federal level and also at the state level, but we now have what we call mega sites that are shovel-ready in the South Side and the Southwest, so that, for example, if a company, I'll just mention such as Caterpillar, if they come knocking on our door and say, we would like to come to Virginia, we're ready. The lights are on and the doors are open, and so we're going to use those mega sites to, I think, bring some big manufacturers in here, and Governor McAuliffe's very involved and doing an excellent job. David, if you look at, you know, the number of jobs that have been started here in the Commonwealth since he's taken office, he's at the top of the list compared to other governors. $5 billion worth of investment that have come into the Commonwealth. So he's out there doing good work. He's got a great cabinet, and I think Virginia's going to see some good things happen economically in the next 3 years.
I guess that kind of leads into the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, because that kind of goes along with what you're saying and the work that they're doing. But you also, whether it's the Indian Commission that you serve on, or the VMI Council that you serve on, or Secure Virginia, pick any of those and tell our viewers some of what else you're fitting into your busy schedule.
Well, you know, the rural development is probably from my upbringing and where I come from. I am focused on bringing jobs, and you know, we think about it, David. If we can bring businesses and jobs to the rural areas of Virginia, then that's what pays for schools, it pays for infrastructure, transportation, pays for health care, those types of things. So that's what we're focused on. And you know, one of the things that, you know, we've talked about this last year, and I hope that people realize, is Medicaid expansion. That is providing coverage to up to 400,000 hard-working Virginians is key to our rural areas of Virginia. And I'll give you an example. Out in Lee County, we've had a hospital that closed. Now, if we're trying to invite a manufacturer to come to the Southwest, one of their questions is, how's the health care? And so it's hard to sit there and say, we'd like you to come to Virginia, but we're sorry to tell you that one of our hospitals just closed down. So as we move forward, both from a moral perspective, in other words, giving coverage to individuals that need health care, and from a business perspective, $5 million per day that we're leaving on the table by not expanding Medicaid. This is something that shouldn't be a partisan issue. That's money that's been sent to the federal level that all we're doing is asking to bring it back to Virginia. And so I will continue to work and try to educate folks as to the importance of Medicaid expansion in Virginia.
You know, we were talking before we started taping the program. You know, you've been in Southwest Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I have roots out there, and it's not just Southwest, other parts of the state too, where people really want to have more health care,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow there's a disconnect because some of the same people would say, but I'm against Obamacare.
Right, that's right.
And it's hard to get people to realize that they're talking about one and the same thing.
They are, David, and you know, one of our biggest challenges with health care is the cost issue. And we have learned over the years that the best way to address cost is to have someone covered. In other words, if someone doesn't have insurance and they don't have coverage, they end up going to the emergency room. And I can just tell you, having worked in the hospitals for 25 years, there's a time and a place for the emergency room, but it is very, very expensive, and it's not the best place for preventive care. So we just want to make sure that all Virginians have access to a primary care provider.
Now, Jamestown Yorktown Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
you serve on that. Do they have any special things happening there?
Well, we do, and in 2019 is the 400-year anniversary. And so we're coordinating what's going on in Jamestown and Yorktown with what's going on at Fort Monroe. And again, that's one of the projects that I'm working on. But yeah, I think I would have your viewers say, keep their eyes open, because there's going to be some neat things happening in the next few years regarding that area and Fort Monroe.
And that certainly rolls right into the Tourism Authority that
That's
you
right.
also serve on as one of your 13 commissions and boards.
Well, tourism is an important part of our economy. And, you know, it's nice when people come and visit. We have great state parks, but, you know, when they come and visit a park or come and go fishing and they eat in our restaurants and stay in our hotels and then they go back home, you know, that's a good deal for Virginia. So that's something that we'll continue to promote, and it's been very successful. You know, if you travel across Virginia, I know you're from the Southwest, I'm from the Eastern Shore, but the Commonwealth of Virginia has it all. I mean, it's just a beautiful state. We have, again, great and beautiful state parks, and I would encourage all the viewers out there, if they haven't taken advantage of going and visiting some of our parks, I would strongly encourage it. And again, we invite tourists to come to the Commonwealth and help us out.
Well, in our closing couple of minutes, there may be something that I haven't asked you about that you said, I thought David was going to ask me about this, to say, is there something else that you'd like to talk about? Or and if nothing comes to mind right away, go back to your primary job as Lieutenant Governor,
Right.
presiding. You've presided over a Democratic majority. You've
Right.
presided over a Republican majority. How's that presiding?
You know, it's been a great job, and I consider all 40 senators my friends, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and that's, I think, been one of my hallmarks. I'm able to sit down at the table and bring people together, and that's really the way we move Virginia forward and stop the partisan bickering, and let's sit down at the table and, you know, figure out what our challenges are and then come up with solutions. The one area that I really think we're going to need some work on, and I think we'll see some legislation introduced, is ethics reform. I put in a bill a couple years ago to try to put some more teeth in that, but we still have a lot of room to go. So I think you're going to see some legislation there, and also nonpartisan redistricting. That is very important to make democracy as strong as it can be in the Commonwealth.
Lieutenant Governor Northam, thank you again so much for being on This Week in Richmond. We look forward to having you back, and you're welcome to come at any time, but we'll be asking you to come back as you move on into 2015. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.